Hey everyone, my name is Taskin Alam. Today, my teammates and I, we are going to be talking about Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria by Beverly Danielle Tatum. To start off, chapter 1, Defining Racism. Can we talk? Now, what is racism? The definition of racism will be different according to different people, but the author in this book defines racism is an impact it has on people of color that begins early in preschool. Now, the impact of racism creates social segregation in communities where children are exposed to misinformation about people different from ourselves. And in this social segregation, media plays a very vital role where media exposes children with misinformation. One of the movies that I really want to talk about is The Lion King, which was mentioned even in this book, where the good lion was referred as the white lion and the black lion was represented with the color black. Now, and these misinformations leads to prejudice. Now, if you tell me what is prejudice, prejudice is a preconceived judgment or opinion, usually based on limited information, quoted from page 6. Now, prejudice has a very strong impact on our society. It plays a very strong role on our society. Quoted from page 6, the author refers prejudice as polluted air. Knowing the air is polluted, we are still inhaling it. Similarly, knowing the informations are not examined, we are still taking in all the informations that are available out there. Now, systematic advantage versus cost of racism. The systematic advantage of white is often referred to as white privilege. Over here, my concern is not about the systematic advantage. My concern is the cost of racism. Did you ever think a white person who is being advantaged by the system, why would that certain person wants to change this system of advantage? People of color or people of more color? People of color are groups in America that are mostly targeted by racism, but on contrary, white people have color too. So why can't we call it people of more color? And that brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you for hearing me out. I'll pass on the presentation to my next team member. Thank you so much.
So chapter 2 of the book is titled The Complexity of Identity. Who am I? A person's identity is very complex, and the discovery of that identity is going to be different for each person. Outside factors will shape each person's identity, such as historical events they lived through, where you grew up, your religious affiliation, socioeconomic status, sexuality, and many more. Around when one reaches puberty is when they will begin to question their identity and develop one for themselves. And quoting Tatum from page 20 of the book, choices made in adolescence ripple throughout the lifespan. When developing an identity, children of different groups identify themselves differently. When a person belongs to the dominant or socially advantaged group, example, if you are white, so heterosexual, male, etc., they rarely claim that as their identifying factor. However, when a person belongs to a subordinate or socially disadvantaged group, example, if you're a person of color, you're homosexual, transgender, female, etc., then that factor becomes a part of your identity. The parts of our identity that do capture our attention are those that other people notice, page 21. When people point out things such as being intelligent or funny or pretty, those aspects of ourselves become a key identifier for us. And dominant groups versus subordinate groups. A dominant group is a group of people who set the rules for the subordinate group. Example, and again, none of these are true. These are all based on stereotypes. So, example, white people set the standard that they are intelligent, and therefore Black people are not as intelligent as they are. And then men are very emotionally strong, so therefore women are emotionally unstable and cannot be trusted with making tough decisions. And also, a thin person must be active to be thin. So that means that overweight people are lazy and inactive, make worse employees. Again, obviously none of these are true, but this is some examples of setting the rules for that subordinate group. A member of the dominant group does not think about how the subordinate group feels and limits their thinking to stereotypes of that subordinate group, but the subordinate member knows exactly how a dominant member feels.
Chapter 3 is called The Early Years. Is my skin brown because I drink chocolate milk? Questions and confusions about race and racial issues begin at an early age. Children are not usually colorblind as their parents assume, and they notice physical differences as young as the age of 3. Some adults practice selective inattention when hearing children speak of race because they don't know how to respond. Tatum gives this scenario. A white mother and preschool child are shopping in the grocery store. They pass a black woman and child, and the white child says loudly, "Mommy, look at that girl. Why is she so dirty?" Instead of giving an appropriate response and explaining that people are different, the mother simply replies with a shh. By silencing the child's thoughts and questions about race, the child learns that race is a topic not to be talked about. Chapter 3 continues, and Tatum says, "While I think it is necessary to be honest about the racism of our past and present, it is also necessary to empower children and adults with a vision that change is possible." Colorism is another term in the chapter, and it is defined as the societal preference for light skin, and the relative advantage bestowed on light-skinned blacks historically manifests itself not only in the marketplace, but even within black families. On page 151, it says that internalization of white supremacist standards of beauty and the desire to maintain what little advantage can be gained in a racist system leads some families to reject darker-skinned members. Children can learn to spot that stuff being racist, sexist, or classist, or more, moments in books, TV shows, movies, and everyday life. And this important skill is called critical examination.
Hi, I'm Lillian in Chapter 4, Identity Development and Adolescence. Why are all the black kids sitting together in the cafeteria? It kind of starts off with the basic point of the search for personal identity occurring in 4 stages or 4 statuses, with diffuse, foreclose, moratorium, and achieve, basically saying you start at the beginning where there's little exploration. You get to foreclose, which is a committed belief to a system, maybe influenced by your parents or society or school system, to a state of actively exploring new beliefs, where you get to achieve, which is your own sense of personal commitment to a belief, which grows into the situations in school which are creating an imbalance between white students and black students and grouping based on scores, which should be and should not be, which devalues the circumstances they grew up in, like a black boy equals athletic in predominantly white schools, making their athletic success acknowledged, creating a sense of social success because they're successful in sports. This goes on to racism as self-segregation. When feelings are invalidated, rational and irrational, most people disengage, anger and resentment grow, and which creates an oppositional society identity, which protects like one person from psychological assault of racism. And getting back to why they're not at the table, it highlights one's growth while you learn and value your differences from others to becoming who you are and who you want to be, knowing as yourself and your struggles with racism in society, as identity development.
And just a couple questions from the first 4 chapters. Question 1 would be, how do dominant groups benefit from setting the rules for subordinate groups? And then question 2 is, when talking about race, what are ways we can empower our students to know that change is possible?